Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to get right into it. The Federal Reserve's latest big move. So, what did they do? Why should you even care? And really, what's it mean for the rest of us? Let's break it all down. So, you might be thinking, why should I care what a group of economists in DC are up to? Well, here's the thing. Their decisions, even if they sound super complicated, they have a direct line to your wallet. I'm talking about everything from your car loan to your mortgage to even your job prospects. So, yeah, let's connect those dots. Okay, so before we can really dig into this one decision, we got to take a step back and look at the Fed's main job. Like, what are they trying to do day in and day out? And it all boils down to this thing they call their dual mandate. Congress has basically handed the Fed a two-item to-do list. It's a real balancing act. On one hand, they need to foster maximum employment, which is just a fancy way of saying they want as many people as possible to have jobs. But on the other hand, they have to keep prices stable. In other words, fight inflation. And you can probably guess, these two goals, they don't always play nice together. It's a constant tug of war. And that stable prices thing, it's not just some fuzzy concept. Nope, they've put a hard number on it, 2%. The Fed is on record saying that a 2% inflation rate is their magic number. You know, the Goldilocks zone, not too hot, not too cold, just right for a healthy, growing economy. And a huge part of their strategy is just being open about what they're doing. Their whole philosophy is, hey, if we explain our decisions clearly, using these exact kinds of documents we're looking at, it helps everybody. Whether you're a family thinking about a mortgage or a business thinking about expanding, you can make smarter moves when you know what's going on. Okay, so with that mission in mind, let's become a fly on the wall in their meeting room. Let's look at the economic dashboard they were staring at on January 28th, 2026. What were the key numbers jumping off the page and screaming for their attention? First up, the job situation. The unemployment rate was sitting at 4.4%. Now, if you look at the big picture, historically, that's not bad at all. It's a pretty low number. And for folks like Chair Powell, this was maybe a little glimmer of hope, a sign that the job market, which had been kind of cooling off, might finally be leveling out. All right, now let's flip to the other side of that dual mandate coin, inflation. Their favorite yardstick for this is something called the PCE price index. It basically just tracks what you and I are paying for stuff. And that number was at 2.9%. Now, look, that's a huge improvement from where it was, but it's still stubbornly hanging out above that magic 2% target. And this is where things get, well, complicated. Because even though that unemployment rate looked pretty decent, the economy was actually losing jobs. We're talking an average of 22,000 jobs vanishing every month for the last 3 months. Just let that sink in for a second. The unemployment rate is stable, but job growth is negative. See the puzzle? This is the headache the Fed was dealing with. So you're the Fed. What do? Inflation is still a problem. It's too high. But the job market is starting to look a little shaky. It's a classic rock in a hard place scenario. This was the big dilemma facing the Federal Open Market Committee. So, what was the verdict? They decided to do nothing. They hit the pause button. They chose to keep their main interest rate, the federal funds rate, exactly where it was. It's basically a wait-and-see move. Let's just hold tight and see which way the wind blows. And here it is, the proof in the pudding, straight from their official announcement. The magic words are right there. Maintain the target range. In normal people speak, that just means they didn't raise rates and they didn't lower them. They're keeping them parked in that 3.5 to 3.75% range. But this is where the story gets a little juicy. It wasn't some unanimous happy family decision, not at all. As you can see, 10 members voted for the pause, but 2 people actually broke from the pack and voted against it. So who are the rebels? The official statement names them Stephen Mirren and Christopher Waller. And get this, they were looking at the exact same numbers as everyone else, but they came to a totally different conclusion. They saw that weak job growth and thought, uh-oh, we need to act. They argued it was time to start cutting interest rates, not just sit on our hands. But despite that internal debate, Chair Powell, the guy in charge, he doubled down on the decision. His argument was essentially this. Think of our policy like a car on cruise control. We set the speed just right to get us to our destination, which is low inflation and lots of jobs, without slamming on the brakes or flooring the gas pedal. So it's one thing for the Fed to say, we're going to keep rates in this box. But how do they, actually do that? Let's pop the hood and take a look inside their toolbox. Okay, the whole game centers around something called the federal funds rate. The easiest way to think about it is this. It's the interest rate banks charge each other for super short-term loans, like overnight.
And by controlling this one single foundational rate, the Fed creates a ripple effect that spreads through the entire economy. And that's what ends up influencing the rates on your mortgage, your car loan, everything.
So how do they steer that rate? They've got a few tricks up their sleeve, but the big one is called open market operations. It sounds complex, but the idea is simple. When they want interest rates to go down, they buy stuff, like government bonds, from banks. This pumps more cash into the system. And when they want rates to go up, they do the opposite. They sell bonds, which pulls cash out. It's all just a big game of supply and demand for money.
All right, so we've gone through the what and the why, but now we get to the most important question of all. So what? What does any of this actually mean for you?
Here's the bottom line. The Fed is holding steady, which means the interest rates you pay on things like a mortgage, a car loan, or your credit card bill, they're probably not going anywhere for a while. It's also a signal. The Fed is telling us that right now, they're more worried about getting inflation under control than they are about giving a boost to a job market that's looking a little iffy. And that brings us right back to the million-dollar question. You've got these conflicting signals. Inflation is still too high, but the job market is showing some cracks. So, did the Fed make the right call by just waiting it out? Or should they have listened to those two dissenters and started cutting rates to help the job market? We don't have the answer yet. Only time and the economic numbers to come will tell us who had it right.